art journal tip, blending markers that are dried and drying out. Heads up! This video is longer than I planned, and I chatter more than I should have, but I left most of it in the video because I really want to share my thoughts as I work with this old set of Bic Market markers. I am insisting on using every last drop of ink. You can slide the timer bar near to the end of the video to see the final result if you just do not have time to watch a lengthy video. I really don't mind you doing that. I also want to emphasize here that I'm only using this technique with my very old alcohol-based markers. My newer markers are reserved for other projects. This technique is also probably more appropriate for your art journals and for art journalers, but I really like the final effect. Hi there. I have another little tip that's more for art journalers. If you're a card maker or if you're doing a sketching or a drawing for fine art, you might want to listen in. But this is more for art journalers. I have some Bic Market markers. I've had them for a couple years now. They're getting very, very used depending on the color. Some of the colors like orange is really not in my color palette, so it's still pretty juicy. But some of my other colors are starting to dry up. Not really dry up, they just get, I call them scratchy. They get scratchy. Let's go with this red and the yellow, and I'll show you what I mean with various colors. But what I found in my video that I'm going to put up, I've been playing with my scissors designs. I'm not going to do scissors here, I'm just going to make some marks, maybe just very square. See how hard? Now this page is, the background is painted with folk art acrylic flat parchment colored paint, and I do that so that it won't soak through. But here's my red. Now that red should be flowing very nice, but I'm using it. Hey. That's what I bought them for, and like I said, I've had these for a couple years. And I'm just going to do some squares here maybe, because I need to get some marks on my paper here. And as you can tell, I'm struggling. And no, it doesn't have anything. I can go back here to the back. This has no see, and it's still pretty pretty hard to mark on that. In fact, I could do this on the back instead of, maybe you think it's the acrylic based. Let's go back on here. This has nothing. And this is an old art journal that I have some pages left in the back. I can use it up. I call them scratchy. That you can get ink out of them yet. There's still ink in there, but there's not, it isn't like it floats. Here, let me show you the orange. See how nice the orange flows? The orange is pretty juicy yet. I do not use a lot of orange in my palette. My blue is pretty juicy. Try some of these that what I wanted to show you, I'm just putting some marks on the paper here. These markers have ink in them yet, but they're just not, they're not flowing like they should if you wanted to. I'm having to, and maybe you can hear me scratching at it. I'm having to scratch at it quite a bit. Let's try the brown. No, I don't think I want brown yet. Let's do the green. Yeah, see how my green is, and you can tell I've used it because of the tip of the marker is getting pretty worn down. I mean, it comes out, but not really great. This other green might be better. And it is. Okay, now that I have all that down there, let's try my black Sharpie around here. I'm just gonna draw some lines around here. A square. And let's just make this. And you can see even my Sharpie is getting pretty dry. And don't ask me what I'm drawing here because I'm not drawing anything special. I'm making marks on the page. Let's just go like this. Okay, what I want to show you is I have some denatured alcohol that I put into this little spray container. I'm not going to open this, but I wanted to show you. I bought this at Ace Hardware years or so ago, and it's still pretty full. I just fill mine. I use it every now and then. I'm going to take the cap, the little round cap, and I'm going to take my sprayer off, and I'm just going to pour some of that alcohol into this cap. Now I will say that this is kind of a, you can smell it, but it isn't like I'm sniffing it. For me, it doesn't bother me. Fumes don't bother me too much. You still want to be safe. I'm just going to dip my brush in there. And look, I'm going to move this ink with my alcohol. All these scratchy lines. I'm blending. I'm using the alcohol to blend is what I'm doing. Now you're still going to get the distinction of color unless you put a lot of juicy ink on there, like this orange. But look how this blends out. And alcohol will dry very fast. It evaporates very fast. So you're not going to have to worry about it too much on your page. It will also soak through. See how that soaked through, and it even soaked through to there. That is why I went over here to my page that this is just an old art journal that I play in every now and then. Let's go back over to my acrylic page here. Let's blend this. Look at how that blends. It actually blends much nicer on the acrylic than it does on the, almost wipes it right off, doesn't it? On here, on the back, it blended it like I wanted to. But over here, I really like what that did. So if I wanted to, let's say, oh, I don't want to draw a flower. I learned this doing my scissors, so I'm going back to my old standby scissors. Because that's what I've been doing a lot lately. Now look at how hard it is to draw. But I will say I am drawing on acrylic paint, so it is, I think it's a little bit harder, but these markers are dry. I mean, they're old. Let's see if I can't get another color here. Let's get this other red, pinkish red, pink, dark pink. Let's see how that does it. Yeah. So I'm just going to make some marks here, and they're pretty scratchy marks. And let's go with the brown in here. Just kind of give it some shadow. And I'm just doing a fast, I'm not doing a controlled drawing. This is more of a fast sketch. Let's see, let's just go like that. Like that. And shall we leave them open? Okay. So, how about a darker rosy color in here? This is pretty juicy. This is another one I don't use a whole lot of. These bright colors, I'm more of an earth tones person, so your reds and bright greens, those colors I don't tend to use a lot. How about this gray? That's what I got here. Yeah, I've used that a lot. But see, it's scratchy on the... I'm having to work at getting it out. Okay, now let's take my alcohol again. You don't need a lot. You just barely wet your... And look what happens here. Look how nice it blends it. And I will say, I think part of it is because it's on the acrylic background. Kind of a flat base background. And I would think this would be more for if you're doing art journaling. But this set of scissors, this set of pens that I have are just about all used up. In fact, I bought me another set, and I'm not ready to throw these out yet because obviously they still have a lot of ink. Now, this is alcohol. This is not glycerin. And I really wouldn't recommend you putting your tip of your pen in there. You might dry out your nib. You don't want to do that. You know, you can do it with glycerin, but you don't want to do it with alcohol. But I'm using my alcohol as a blending solution. And I'm almost doing a very fast sketch with that. Let's do, let's go back to, dark blue here. Let's do the word, I like to write scissors. Let's do the word scissors here. Let's do it really big. And I'm running out of room. I want to make our letters smaller here. There we go. Okay, so let's just use our marker in there. Don't have to, almost like you're doing, the Faber-Castell watercolor pencils, where you're not concerned about getting even coverage, you're just getting ink on the paper. That's all I'm doing here, is I'm just putting down ink. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but I like to use my tools and my art supplies until I'm sure that I've used them. And I probably do abuse them a little bit more than I should. Although I will say, I've had these markers for a couple of years and they have really lasted me through a lot of projects. I have one journal that I'm journaling in. I do stained glass. It's a spiritual journal. And I do stained glass. And I use these markers. And that takes a lot of color. That takes a lot of ink. And I've been using these for quite some time now. Still get some color on here if I can. And I'm not being very careful because my only goal here is just to get ink on the page within the letter. I mean, but I'm not trying to shade every spot of the letter, you know. I'm just getting ink inside of them as much as I can. Yeah, I like that. Now let's just go and put a shadow in here if we can. Okay, let's go back to my black Sharpie. I like to use a lot of contrast on my pages. Let's just put some Sharpie marks in there. That goes. Now I wouldn't be doing this with, I'm doing this with my older markers. Your nicer markers, you may not want to. I mean, your nicer markers, you want to use them for. Here we go. This is nice and juicy. Your nicer markers, you want to use them for your nicer projects. This is just an art journal, and that's why I said this is for art journalers. Spraying some color in there, not being too careful about where it's going, just getting some lines in there, some marks of color. Your eye kind of, and the alcohol will blend it. Let's see, how about this color? If I can get it out. It's kind of a pinkish color. It's not what I want. Oh, let's see. I'm just putting marks in there. Just getting color on there. And doing it haphazardly. Not really more scribbling. Now I don't have anything in here. But let's go back to my alcohol again. I just love how this alcohol will blend these. And just from my experiment here, I'm finding that it blends it more on a prepared background, an acrylic background, than it did in the back of the book where this one, it would blend it here, but it blends so much nicer on the acrylic when I prepped it with an acrylic base. And you can it's almost like a watercolor pencil. I mean, but these are acrylic, these are markers, these aren't watercolor pencils, but that alcohol blends that ink just as if it was a watercolor pencil. That's what I'm getting at. Boy, do I like that. I like that S a lot. But see all my rough marks here? Look at all my rough scratches as compared to the S. It just blended all of those. I got a few shown in there yet, but see these are all rough scratches. That's what that S was. And this is just this is another way to use up art supplies that are, rather than tossing them in the trash, use them as much as you can. Use them to the last drop. The last scratch, rather, in this case. And see, I just have my alcohol in a little cap that went on that spray bottle, and I'm just kind of using it as I'm using my brush as a blending tool. I really like how it softens those lines. I think I'm going to go in and do all my background here first. Yeah, this is about using what you have and using it up. And you know how sometimes you'll buy markers like at the thrift, well, to tell you the truth, I'm always wary about buying markers at the thrift store because most of the time you buy them and they're dry. And who wants to pay even, 49, 50 cents, even a dime for a dry marker that you can't use? Now these are Sharpies, so I think these are already, well, Sharpies and Bic markers, Bic market markers, so they already have they're not water-based markers. I don't think you could do the same thing with water. That's why I'm using alcohol. They already have an alcohol base. Let's go in and do clean off my brush a little here. I even got my alcohol is starting to get colored from that blue. I need to do all the background before I and you can even pull some of that color out if you want into the into the blank areas. And here again, I am using alcohol. It is a little smelly. If you're sensitive to that, well then, you know, deal with it accordingly. You may not want to do this process. I'm not sensitive to it yet. It doesn't bother me. And I'm just using not even a 1/10 of an ounce, you know. It doesn't take much on this brush to move these marks on the page. It's a very, gives it a very soft look. Good smell in there. Who would have thought that you could do this with your permanent markers? Well, maybe somebody already knows this. This is just something as I was playing with my scissors today in my scissors doodle book. And when I put up that video, you'll see how I use it in my scissors doodle book. And that's probably one reason why I chose scissors here. Well, I can tell you it is. So I wrote the word scissors, and I have a scissors. I really don't have anything up in there. I guess I should put another pair of scissors in there. And see, that's all dry already. I cannot move that with my hand. That's alcohol. And it did not come through on the other side because I have an acrylic. I painted this background with acrylic flat-based paint. Here, on this page, I just did it on the back of this. It's 140-pound paper, I believe. It's one of those Strathmore journals. Visual journal, watercolor, cold press. It's 90 pounds. I'm sorry, it's not 140 pounds. To see how it come through, that alcohol bled it through when I did not have a base coat on it. And it even bled through over to here. But it dries very fast now. What shall I do? What shall I use? Okay, so now I just start drawing in some more scissors, of course, and in using these markers. Some of them are dry and scratchy, and some of them have a bit more juice in them, but I'm just filling in areas of my page with lines of ink, and I don't care that the lines are not complete. They're just scratchy lines on there. I'm really just putting color down on the page, and then I get out my alcohol and my little cap there and my brush, and then I just start blending in all of those big marks, and then I get out a big Sharpie bold pen and outline everything just to bring out the entire page. I really like the effect of this. There we go. Another way to use up your inks. Now you could come back in here. I still see some blotchiness in there. I could come back in with my alcohol and smooth all this out, but I kind of like that. I could come in with my pen and do some doodling in behind there. So, just a good way to use up your old markers. Some denatured alcohol, a paintbrush, and a little cap of alcohol. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you on the next page.